Welcome back to the 150K podcast. I'm your host, Joe Graham, where we help take your dreams to six figures and beyond. Today, I have with me special guest, Kohila Sivas. Now, I met you through my buddy, James Dixon, who just his episode dropped on, I think, last week on the show and all, but this is kind of like a first date. I know James recommended you, and I know he's going to give me powerful, amazing people. But in your own words, tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, and who you help.
Hmm. So, as once a broken person coming to Canada, I moved from Sri Lanka to Canada, escaping a war, and then muted myself for several years because I didn't want to be made fun of at school, not knowing English. Then lived with the dad who was alcoholic, so that caused some turbulence during my teenage years. And then I decided to end my life, and I was abused as a child. So then I decided to end my life at the age of 12. So the life I have right now is my second chance that I'm here and I'm given a purpose and I live that every day.
Wow. Well, first, I'm glad you're here, but I
Thank you.
want to dig into that first. So let's start with this. You've been given a second chance, and we can go into your story a little bit, but what is your purpose right now? Because you said you're here for a purpose.
Yeah. So my purpose is the day that I decided to end my life, the day that I did that event that happened to me and then woke up. The next time I woke up, I wanted somebody beside me to talk to, but all I had was my own mind. And when you are living in toxic, your mind is also very toxic. It can only tell you what you want to hear. And it told me what I wanted to hear. But when I woke up, then it told me different stories. The next day it was different. The same mind I was working with, but I was glad to be woken up and I was looking at it from a different lens. So I wanted to have that someone for me and wasn't there. I wouldn't have anyone. So after that, my mission is to create what I call learning success coaches. That's what I've been working with. So they're not tutors, they're not teachers, they're more than that. These are coaches who can be there for a child going through any turbulence like I did. So that's my mission, is to create those people.
No, I love that. I love that. So, how does, well, first, how did you get to the place of healing? Because a lot of stuff you mentioned there, you escaped a war, come to a new culture, don't really know the language and the dynamic of it, have to learn how to fit in to the point where at 12, you tried to commit suicide. But now you're helping, I'm assuming children and people process through that trauma and become the person that they would want to be, if I guess for lack of better words. How did you first get your healing to get to do that?
Yeah. So the day that I woke up, I think I was given, as I said, second chance. That chance included looking through a different lens. I learned how to work with my mind. Up until that point, I was in a toxic pool of choices and thinking power. And after that incident, there was a different lens, and I started taking perspective. And I started asking, is it really true inside of myself? This is all conversation within myself. So since that day, I have become a scientist. In my head, I am a scientist. I'm always analyzing. I'm always been a deep thinker. So I've one of the things that helped me during that time was math. I fell in love with math. I started cracking the codes of math. So when I exited the classroom, I was like, math is so easy. This was my therapy because I couldn't solve many things in my life. But in
Mhm.
math, I could solve anything. I could get the answer. So I was very empowered. I was like getting my confidence built through that. So I wanted to exit when I exited the classroom as a teenager. I'm like, I want to go become a teacher. I want to help all the students the way that math has helped me to really given me the opportunity to have that confidence and have a voice again. I want to do that for other students. Unfortunately, I went into the classroom. I couldn't help all my students the way I wanted because the system is all for one, everybody fits into one
Mhm.
mold, right? I couldn't help, so I was defeated. Then I decided that I would start my own tutoring business because in tutoring, I can really help my students one on one and really make a difference. Unfortunately, it didn't happen there either because tutoring is transactional. People come to you like you have a pill you're going to give them and they're going to go get good grades. So I was part of being hired for that pill, which wasn't satisfying me. It was soul sucking and it was just burned out after burned out. So through those research, I landed on my methodology that I have now. Two methodology that I was able to create is the mind work framework and the meta learning de-stress method. So I teach my students how to learn and also to figure out how do you learn, because every one of us learn
Mhm.
differently. So I find out their brain print or the mind print, and then we work from there, and we work it holistically. So it's not just about learning, it's about learning in an environment that's going to foster your learning, right? So I've changed all that. And I took that business 12 years ago online. And during COVID, it served me really well. My business boomed. I was ahead of everyone else online, coaching all over the world. And that's how I ended up, becoming very successful. And I needed to hire more people because I was so busy. Instead of hiring teachers and training them and making it a transaction for them, I wanted to empower them. So 2 years ago, I started offering a program, a certification program that is accredited by ICF for 40 credits, continuing credit. They can become a learning success coach certified under my methodology. So since then, we have over 250 people who have gone through the program and certified. So to answer your question, how do I help the students? Before I was helping, for the past 25 years, I helped. Now I have multiplied that into a bigger
Mhm.
number to help more people. So our goal, our mission is to serve 1.5 million students by 2035.
I love it. I love it.
That's
I
my
love
mission.
the thing that I love the most because I have ADHD. My son has dyslexia. My daughter has some dyslexia, and everyone's learning style is different. Like I know that. Like when I was in school at first, and it's kind of funny because you made me think about this. When I was in school, they first tried to put me in the slower class because, and really I was bored out of my mind.
Yes.
So like I get in the slower class and like I'm just answering stuff all day long. Then they try to put me into the faster class, and it's just like there's not a one size fits all. And I know you agree with me on this. So, how does someone find their learning style? Like I've developed my own, but that's taken years to do because I didn't fit into the right classroom mold of how I learn. But how do you help people find their style or identify
So
it?
when I'm certifying my coaches, I'm untraining these teachers to look for a bucket. What we do, what we have been taught and preached is that look for a bucket and try to fit your student into that bucket. I tell them there is no bucket, there is no box. This is the infinite world is available to you. You're going to look at the child as a person first. They're not your student. They are a child at first. Who are they? And that's how you get to find out exactly how they're going to learn, because they're going to tell you how they learn if you listen to them. But majority of the time, we're so busy fitting somebody into a label or a box that you will have to fit into this category. I don't even look at you. I already know you have ADHD. Okay, sure. You go over there. You have autism. You over here. Like we're just labeling and fitting people in, right? How about just forgetting all of that and just talking to that child, and they'll tell you exactly how they learn and how they process. And you can see it. It's very clear.
I love that. I love your perspective on this because I've talked to a lot of people in different areas and with learning and growing and doing different stuff. And I've never had someone say it like that to the point of no, you just actually talk to the human. You find out how it works. Success, it's so simple. Helping people is so simple. You find the problem, you fix it. We just, like you said, we try to label things or fix things or put it into the boxes to make it comfortable for ourselves instead of having a methodology that you use that opens up that person and helps them grow and become who they need to be. Is that something that you learned first for yourself, or how did you get? Is that from? How did you get that idea? Because it's definitely outside the box. It pretty much kicks the boxes
There's no
away and
box.
breaks them, which is
There's no
great.
box.
You're right. But how did you come up with that ideology or thought process?
I always look at it as what did I want for myself? What would have given me that opportunity, that environment, that care that would have made me want to open up and learn? Like I remember to this day, because I muted myself for so many years in my elementary level, I never spoke to anyone until my grade 7 ESL teacher. She looked into my eyes and she said, Kohila, I know you can speak. I want you to speak. She was the first person who told me that, and since that day, I've been speaking. Until up until then, nobody looked at me and said, "You should speak. I know you can speak. Speak." That I still remember her name. I don't remember anybody from my high school or any teachers that taught me before that. Obviously, because they didn't see me, I didn't see them either. I don't see them either, right?
Yeah. Well, but that's I love that because the power of one person seeing you, and it
Yeah.
wasn't even a hard thing. It was just like, no, I see
Speak.
you. Talk with me. Let's do this. opened you up,
Yeah.
and it in ways empowered you to realize I do have a voice, which I think
Mm.
is very hard for a lot of people because they in this society we overlook at this person's done this more than me or that person did this more than me. But in reality, what I love, what I'm hearing in your message is simply this: find your path, be you, and do what makes you happy and grow and become the person you need to be. And I think that if more people realize that, life would be a lot better because comparison kills, but curiosity creates.
Yeah, yeah. I still have people, look past me. I'm in a networking event. I see people, they look past me. I just forgive them for what they're not going to learn from me because,
Mhm.
I never look past anyone. And if I see someone shorter than me, my younger student, I get down to their level. You would see me right away bend down to their level. I never talk to my students like this on top of them, over them. I would get down and speak to them because we're same. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to preach or I'm not here to lecture you. I'm here to help you. How can I help you? It's a different environment. You have to create connection
Mhm.
with the student, and a student will show you and perform for you. Like if you ask any of my 1,600 plus students or all these families I've helped so far in my life, if you ask them, they would tell you, every single student will tell you, I want to do well and show Kohila I can do it. I never told them that. If you ask them, did I ever tell you that? No. But I created an environment and an energy that we both felt like, oh, Kohila, trust me, Kohila, believe in me. I want to do this and show her that I can do it. And that's what they do every time.
Well, but I love the like my mind works this way in threads because like when I go to events, that's why I go to small events because I want to be able to connect or at least say hello and interact with pretty much everyone there. So I try to go to
Yes.
events that are like 75 people or less because in a 2 to 3 day time frame I can meet them. But I loved what you said there as well. Don't overlook people. Like I
Yeah.
think so many times we look at like we know James. We'll use James. He's amazing,
Yeah.
wonderful human, and people go up to him and be like, "I'm your biggest fan," blah blah blah. But there's so many people in your world right now that could help you or impact you if you just were aware and open to it. I think
Yes.
that's what I'm getting, like, just from our conversation around, which I just love, is just seeing the people around you and helping where you can and then receiving where you can. And I think if we as a society could do that, it would make the world such a more better place.
Yeah. And we talk about it, but we have to live it. We say we have to respect people. Well, show respect, and show respect is looking at them and speaking to them, right? And I'm friendly. Okay, be friendly. Don't choose to be friendly. Be friendly then, right? Like when you're going to say that, you got to model it and you have to embody it. You don't just say it. They're not just words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think again it comes down to the whole because you're in the online space and you see this. I want your thoughts.
Yes.
Everyone's trying to pose and be the person and put their best foot forward instead of being authentic. But the people that I'm drawn to are like people like you, people like James, people like my buddy Brian Bogart, who push humanity first or being authentic first or helping people first over look at me. And how has that shaped how you view things? Because I know you're getting into public speaking and doing things, and getting into this space can be a little bit crazy at times because there's a lot of prima donna type people where they're very ego driven. How do you help your students get past that once they get to the point if they want to speak and all to how do you get past that point to find the authentic real? I know that I went on a really long ramble
No,
there.
that's
Sorry.
good. No, no, that's good. For me, what I'm about to do, I have my own path. I tell my students, you draw your own path and you stay in it. There's no competition, there's no comparison. In your path, you're the only one. Don't look to the right, don't look to the left. Just keep going and you'll hit infinity every single day. So for me, that's how I live too. I don't have any competition. Everyone is competing on their own. I'm not competing to be the best speaker ever. I have curated and I have created programs that are revolutionary, and I believe it because I've changed lives every single day in my own way. So for me, there's no competition. If you got something better, I'm happy for you. And I would love to know what that is, but you're not competing with me because I know what works for me, right? I think that sense of grounding And then your relationship with God or universe or whoever you believe, it's so important, because for me, everything I get and I receive is downloaded from God. And intuition, for me, a lot of it is intuition. I don't question my intuition. And sometimes if I tell my team members in our business, I've been doing online business for almost 13 years now. If I tell them, they're like, I don't know if it's going to work. I'm like, no, we're going to do it. It's going to work because it's my intuition. And if it doesn't work, we'll fix it later, but we're doing it this way. I wasn't like that in the beginning. I was very much like, the people pleaser. I'm a survivor of that. So I never had that voice. But then in the last, I think, 3 years, especially this year, I really live by it. If I'm going to receive it from God, the intuition and that message, it doesn't matter who says what type of experience, I'm not going to execute it because they're saying it is not going to work. I'm going to execute it and I'm going to deal with what comes with that execution. That's all.
How did you develop the intuition? Because like I know, like I have intuition. I know there's certain feelings, certain things that I follow, and I know when I listen to it, I do well. When I decide to go against it, normally things mess up. But how did you develop it? Because it seems like it's a very important aspect of who you are now.
Yes. I think since the death and the living and the death, I was in a limbo like this for in a moments, right? I had that, and oh, that's my balloon. We're celebrating. It's
Sweet.
on Zoom somehow.
I
So
like celebrating. That works.
we're celebrating. So for me, that incident, and I think I listened to the messages. You have to listen. Sometimes we're so busy in our life, we don't listen, right? So for
Mhm,
me, at 3 a.m., it's almost like a wake up call that I would get 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And when that happens, I wake up. And sometimes I'm writing, sometimes I'm listening, sometimes I'm just letting it play. It's like a dream, but sometimes it plays. And the next morning, then I'll go to bed and I'll wake up and I'll have a new profound idea that I never had before. I'm like, okay. But then I was looking for validation. That's the business part of it, right? You were asking earlier.
mhm.
Then we look for validation, we look for opinions. And then, or you're like, okay, maybe that's not good. I used to be that person. I used to be that all the time. But last 3 years and this year especially, I am not that person. If I receive something, I'm going to execute it. And I've received something right now in the last few months, which is to create a new platform for parents, which is called Personal Development for Parenting. Because right now, the majority of the problem that stems from parents not knowing how to parent their kids in the new 21st century demands different parenting. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm seeing that directly affecting our students. And if the institution that has to bring up our kids is suffering, we're going to have generation of kids who are going to be lost in anything they do. So I want to provide that for our parents who are out there right now parenting, because it's not easy. And they can't even turn to their own parents because their parents don't have the information that they need for growing the kids that are now young and growing up, right? So that's intuitional. I never was thinking I'm going to do that. That's not what my path was a year ago, but I got it. I'm doing it, and people tell me that's not going to work. I'm like, great, thank you, but we're doing it. We're going to
No,
go.
I love that. I love their, and I like the word grounding. Like when we were talking, I feel a very deep, like you're just confident in who you are, what you're doing, and you're not being swayed by other people, which is amazing because a lot of times, especially with what you said with your background, that you're to this point now, that's a huge step forward. So you mentioned God and the universe and stuff. How important is faith to you in structuring your life and what you do?
I am here because God given me the second chance to go and deliver this mission that He given me. That is the message, is to make sure that I create something that protects our young children. I always say at the center of everything we do, we have an innocent person, right? I was an innocent person at that time. I didn't know anything. I didn't want anything. All I wanted to do was play and run around and enjoy. But then there
Mhm.
was all these things that came into my life, including war, parent, other people, death, everything came in. And I was so corrupted and toxic at that age. All I wanted was play and do nothing and eat and run around. That's what I wanted. And we need to give that to our kids. And right now, there's so many more dangers than I grew up with and you grew up with, right? Including our phone is 24-hour danger in their hands of our kids. And we don't have education around it. and we don't use it as a tool. We are now, that is part of our body, right? Most of us carry it as it's part of our body. So for me, that's my mission, is to make sure we have proper education, and we have that grounding within each family. And there's faith, whatever faith that they want to,
Mhm.
universe or God, whoever the God they are for them, they need to, every family should ground their kids with values and systems. So there's something they can hold on. And then the most important thing for a child is the system and a structure. They need structure. And I just find nowadays that we're letting go the structure, and that's hurting them. They want structure. That doesn't work for them. Without structure, our kids can't function.
No, I agree 100%. I think a lot of times, well, just like on the parent thing, like I look about how my parents parented me, and now my wife and I, we've changed the dynamic of how we parent. And I have a
Mm.
21-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 9-year-old. Well, 21-year-old and 19-year-old were parented a little bit differently. Then when we got older and wiser, we're like, oh wait, that didn't work. We're going to change and grow and
Yep.
adapt. But most people don't, and I think that's the thing that's scary. You need structure, you need care, but you need invested parents. Like my kids don't get cell phones until they are in ninth grade. That's just
Perfect.
something that I do. Does my daughter have a tablet and get screen time when we're supervising what she's doing? Yes, but it's very supervised, it's very set up. But that's just something that works for our family. Again, I'm not telling people what to do or not to do. And well, I will. If you have like
Well,
a
I
4-year-old and you're
actually
letting
tell
them
them.
play with it. Well, yeah,
Yeah, you
but
should tell them.
you're an ed. I tell like my kids, but you're an educator. Like you do this for a thing. Like I don't think 4-year-olds should have a cell phone running
No,
around. And
you're
I
absolutely
want my
right.
kids to go outside and play and do stuff. And we do stuff together. My wife homeschools my daughter, and she does like a bunch of the different crafts, like a bunch of stuff
Perfect.
that you just don't get because
Love it.
modern school failed her. Like we tried to put her in modern school, we tried to put her in a private school. Neither one worked. So we're like, well, this is our kid. We're going to take responsibility and help her succeed. And so I love your message. I love what you're doing, but I wish more parents would do it.
I love it. I just love what you just said, that I'm doing my responsibility. We all have responsibility. Like that's why I always say, like if I want to drive a car, I need to go get a license. If I want to become a parent, I don't need to do anything. We just all wing it as if we know it,
Oh,
right? So it's not something we want to wing it. And also our parents parenting, like if I model my daughter, my father's parenting, I have to catch myself in the moments when I turn into my dad, because he
mhm.
was my role model, right? So we have that influence too in us, already conditioned. So I remind myself when I'm talking to my 17-year-old son, that sounds like your dad. So you're now removing yourself from this conversation because that's not sounding like you. So I learned to catch myself up, but that's a training, right? But a lot of
Mhm.
us don't have that training. So you're absolutely right in advising that I don't think any child should be having any unsupervised phone or electronics until the age of 6. And even then, it should be so monitored that, because that thing has potential harm in every situation, right? They don't know what to do with the information that comes across it, and they should learn a healthy relationship with that. As we give them those responsible stages, we can introduce the phone, as you said, grade 9. Then you have to introduce what a healthy relationship with that tool is. It's a tool. It's not, it doesn't belong to you. You don't need that to live. It doesn't feed you, right? It's not a feeding tube. It's a tool. You just get to
Yeah.
have it, and I can take it away anytime I want. I tell my son 17, that's my tool. I give it to
Mhm.
you, but if you have to be responsible with it.
And I remember doing that with my son and my daughter, the two that are older, taking the phones away at that point. And I was like, it was hard because again, you go through the whole thing in your head. Yes, these are the principles, but I want them to have a happy life. And you know that you're that whole dynamic, but I think you need to learn to, or I needed to learn at least to be okay with not being their friend all the time and being the one that's going to guide and direct them. Because as a father, I feel my job is to protect, correct, and direct, and not in some weird misogynistic, crazy way, but just in guiding them how to do different things, doing different stuff. Like I took my kids out and dated them when they were young on purpose. Like we would go out, but I was present. I would put my phone down. If they wanted to tell me about whatever cartoon, Barbie, G.I. Joe, whatever it was, I listened. But now my 21-year-old and I talk all the time. I knew her first boyfriend. I knew when she became like all the different things because I developed that process. And I wish more people could do that. Like, I think, like you said, we chose to have children, so we're responsible for raising children, not, oh, I'm just gonna latchkey. Like, I'm Gen X, so I was a latchkey kid in a lot of ways. Both my parents worked, love them, but it just that's what they had to do. But we've created with our life here now where my wife gets to stay at home and I work so that she can be empowered to do what she wants to do. Now, if she wanted to work, she can. This is not a you can't do, but that's what she wants to do. And I think if you're gonna have kids, you need to be responsible for them and help them.
Yep. Otherwise, either you spend the time when they're young and make that meaningful connection that you just mentioned, or you're going to spend later in life and helping them get over some addiction or some type of problem that you're going to face, and now you don't know what to do because you don't have the relationship. Because relationship is the foundation, right? Your daughter calls
Mhm.
you because she has a foundation with you and a relationship with you. My son is now in Chile doing, education away from here. He's in 11, grade 11. I took him out of the school too because I don't agree with what's happening in the system right now, so we wanted to homeschool him. But then he
Mhm.
got an exchange program in Chile, and from there he calls me. We have 2 dates that we get on online and we talk to each other, and that's because he knows we have a relationship, right? Otherwise, when he leaves, he just leaves because I never built it. I never put that foundation, right? So up until 6 years old, you have to really work on that foundation. And I spend every minute of my time with my son as much as possible, building Legos and digging with trucks and all that stuff, learned new things because I never had a childhood. Then I went back and lived through his childhood with him.
Yep. Yep.
So these are experiences. That's why you have kids, right? And even if I was busy, but I still did it. I still did it. That's another thing parents say, I'm so busy. We can say that rest of our life, right? I'm busy. Busy never goes away. It's part of
Most
life.
people don't actually pay attention to what they say they're busy. If people actually were intentional with their time, they're not as busy as they think. I schedule my day on purpose and I am a free flowing, I'm a creative type of guy, but I know structure protects me so that I'm able to do this podcast with you, do the jobs I need to do. When I'm done here, I can go play with my daughter, do my workouts, whatever it is. Structure is giving me so much more freedom. But a lot of people say they're busy. I'm like, let me see your phone, let me see your calendar. And they were like, I'm like, okay, so you don't have any of this time planned here. You're just wasting time. You're not busy.
Yeah. Yeah, or doing busy work and pretend. I mean, that's work that you just do for you don't even know why you're doing it, right? Exactly. And that's the same thing goes for kids, right? We need to teach them how to structure their life. And
Hmm.
they don't end up saying I'm busy too, because it's easy for kids to start saying I'm too busy. You're not. You don't have a structure. Let's put together a structure and then you will see how much time you have left over. Yeah, same for them.
But they're happier with it. Like I've noticed, like with my son and all too. Now he's going to be an electrician. He's really good with his hands. I'm
Yes.
not, but like my grandfather and my dad are both. So it was just interesting. But he always had the natural act to want to build things and do things. So we just empowered him to do it. Like when stuff needs done around the house, could I do it? Yeah, it's going to take me 2 to 3 hours. He can do it in an hour. So he's fulfilling a role inside the family that he likes to do. But
Mm.
it wasn't a you have to do this. I'm going to watch. It was I saw a gift inside of him, and I think with your
Really
kids,
nice.
seeing the right gifts and encouraging them to become the person they are is there. And then forgive yourself because you're going to mess up. I always like to throw that out there too because I know that like it sounds like I'm not perfect by any means. I've messed up. I've yelled before. Like you do different things, and then
Of course we
the other
do.
thing that I've just learned, and I want your thoughts on this, is like apologizing for real to a 5, 6, 7 year old is probably one of the most humbling but impactful things at least as a father, you can do it. I'm sure as a mother as well. I don't speak for women because I'm a guy. I'm not
I
going to
I
try that. But
always apologize to my son. I always apologize to everyone. Apology is the biggest thing you can dedicate to a relationship, even in husband and a wife relationship.
mhm,
Just own your, if you made a mistake, own it and say, I'm so sorry I did it and I can see how I hurt you or did it. And same way I tell my husband too, when you make a mistake, just tell me because it releases everything. When you don't tell me and you act like it's not a mistake or I didn't do anything wrong, then is when the other party is going to get more angry at the person, right? The minute you say sorry, and it feels okay, they understood me, they heard me, right? And then we're good. And for kids, that's so important for them. Just because your mom just and you lost it one day and you yelled, you have to say, I'm sorry, I lost it, I yelled, but that's not the way to handle it.
mhm.
And then there you go, there's a lesson right there, right? You just took that as a teachable moment for that incident. But if you leave it, the kids are going to think that whenever you can't solve something, you yell at somebody, and that's how I solve my problem. And that is not going to
No,
teach them
no, no,
anything.
no, not at all. I think we need to. It's so interesting. Like life can be simple, but it's still hard because of all the like I'm thinking all the programming I had. So like my parents really didn't apologize if they did something wrong. That was not part of the thing. So it was like some of the different things I had to learn as I got older, just being a father, a husband, or even interacting with humans. I think that's key, and I think the closer we get back to relationships and humanity, the better it is. And then you can become who you want. You can have the divine purpose that you have without being worried about, like you said earlier. I don't compete with anyone. I build the life I want to wake up to. So I love that. We're not done, but I always like to put in the middle. Where can people find you?
So I have few websites for parents. They can go to learningsuccessacademy.com. That's where all of my work that I'm doing for parents are located right now. And then for teachers, we have we certify and we create these learning success coaches for our students. So they are passionate teachers, by the way. They're not just anybody. We choose teachers who have been in the classroom, but these are teachers who are leaving the classroom because the classroom is not working for them. They feel defeated by the system like I did. So these are the people I meet, and then I give them this new environment that they can work in holistically. Now they become a holistic neurogrowth learning success coaches. So for them, we have learningsuccesscoaches.com.
No, I like that. That's very cool. So you mentioned earlier, and I don't remember if I remember the number correctly. You want to affect how many people by the year 2035?
1.5 million students.
1.5
So
million.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah,
I love
somebody
so
told me today, I was telling someone earlier this morning, and they said that seems very low for what you're talking about and the way I'm speaking to them. That I thought was very blessing because he said it should you're probably going to achieve that by 2025. I said that would be awesome. Then I can
mhm,
increase my numbers.
yeah. But that makes sense though, because you had a goal in your heart, you had something that you're set for, that you're working toward, and if you hit the number faster, that's great. But maybe when you first thought of that number, it was like really big, because sometimes like I've been in sales for a long time. So in the beginning, I thought, oh, if I got a sale like this would be great. I get sales at that number all the time now. Now I need something bigger to push me
Yeah,
to impact and growth and do more. So no,
yeah.
I think that's good. I think it's always you should.
I actually started with 100,000, and some of my coaches said that doesn't sound like a lot. I said, "Oh yeah, it doesn't," and I pushed it to 1.5. That's how 1.5 came.
Mhm.
So
And
now
then it will
someone else
probably
telling me
go.
it's not
Yep.
good.
Yep. But it's probably this is my thought process. It keeps expanding, and your range of impact might not be exactly through you. So a friend of mine says that he has on a mission to impact 1 billion lives for the good. He knows that that's not going to be just him. It's going to be the people he's influencing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So maybe as you grow, maybe the 1.5 million or 1.25 million you touch, but what are all the people that they're going to touch because they had people believe in them. They were able to develop and learn and become the people they needed to be. There's
yeah.
that law of compounding effect, for better term. That might not be an actual law. That's just how my mind thought about it.
Oh no,
Where
it
the
absolutely works like that. Yeah, it's a domino, right? It's ripple effect, right? Yes, absolutely.
yeah, and I love that because I'm always about impacting people because you can make a bunch of money, but after you get so much money, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
What like I
yeah,
can only go on so many trips. I can only do many things. I did this podcast because I wanted dads to be able to take their kids to Disney. Because when I got to take my kids to Disney, I thought that was cool. And their wives to Hawaii or wherever their place is. Our place is Hawaii. It could be Greece. It could be wherever you want to go. I don't care. But I think impact is the most important thing you can do because at the end of the day, legacy is all you have. How people remember you, how you feel. They're not going to say, oh, Joe sold the company $10 million. They're not going to care about that. They're going to care about how I made them feel.
yeah, absolutely. And as entrepreneurs, that's what we have to remember. And when you get that clarity and grounded by your legacy and impact, your the entrepreneur journey is so much easier, and it's no longer you don't wake up going, oh, I have to do this, because entrepreneurship never ends, right? Our work hours never ends. You cannot just keep working and our brain starts turning and turning. Still, like 13 years into it now, I know that I never stop. And that's a choice. It's not
Mhm.
somebody's forcing you because you don't have a boss. You are your
Yep.
boss. So
Yep.
you can turn off if you want, but you don't allow yourself, because there's always another, as you said, the bar gets right. Like I've reached certain amount, now I got to go to the next amount. Like I used to say, I want to have 100 coaches. I've reached that, and I'm like that. It just doesn't seem like when you get there. One thing I had to tell myself is to celebrate, right? That we forget as
Yep. Yep.
entrepreneurs. We just kind of want to roll through it as nothing
100%.
happened.
Yep.
I'm like 100, okay, slow down and say thank you, calm down. And then it's now 200. Now I'm like, what's the next number? As you said, it's always the next number. And that's not for greedy. Because me always, even when I was working as a tutor, even, I always believed money is a byproduct of a great service.
Hmm.
It wasn't for the money. It's a byproduct of a great service. I just know that if I can do this, the next 500 coaches, I know what that's going to do, right? I just see as you said, the ripple effect. That's my motivation. And if
Yeah.
you ask me, how much did you make already, Kohila? And I don't know that today. I know I did make a lot of money, but I do
Mhm.
not know the number yet, because I don't count that. I count how many coaches I have, because that's what drives me in the morning, not what's in my bank account. And it's important though. Money is important because it buys you lots of freedom and lots of things to
Oh yeah.
make it happen. Yeah.
No, I agree. And because someone asked me that before, because like I've been a very successful salesperson for a long time. And if I wanted to make more money, I wouldn't be an entrepreneur. I would just go sell more because I could
Yeah.
just go sell all the time. But when I think about it, when I look back, I want to impact people. I want to help people. The money will come. I know it's part of the process, but again, that's not my focus. But you perked a thought in my head. You're like, entrepreneurs never shut their minds off. They never stop working. How do you, I don't like the word balance, but how do you recoup? Because we can't just grind 24/7. That doesn't work. What type of practices or things do you have in place that protect you, like stillness practices or whatever it is that you do to refresh?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I started taking words as the one word I'm going to work throughout the whole year. Right. And as an entrepreneur, that's really important. I think this is going to work for a lot of people. If you're listening, you should try this and see how it goes. So the first year I said, I want to become in alignment. As an entrepreneur, I want to get everything that I'm doing in alignment. And that's all I focused. Everything I did, everywhere I looked, I'm like, that's not in alignment. I'm going to fix that. It's like a car out of alignment. I was fixing everything until it got
Mhm.
solid. So then this year, I said, I need balance and boundaries. So I used to put my schedule, like, because I own my schedule, I can put it anywhere I want, right?
Mhm.
There was no boundaries. So I said, you're going to work between Tuesday to Thursday. That's your working time. That's when you will, and Tuesday and Thursday is when you will serve the people in your program, and Tuesday and Thursday. Doesn't matter if they have emergency, they will wait Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Mhm.
That's your boundary. Now, I do not book anyone besides Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then Wednesday is my podcast, my interviews, my all the other content creation, and that's all you will do. Book and do that.
Mhm.
And then Friday, it's your choice to have some more stuff to do or not. If you don't feel like it, don't do it. But Saturday, Sunday, Monday is your time to get away from your computer as much as possible. Again, if you have to do something, that's okay, but you have the structure. You see that there's a structure
Mhm.
to me. I
Yep.
already know my boundaries. I can play a little bit out of that boundary, but I know my boundary. I got to come back into it. And next week, I don't screw that up and book somebody on Sunday.
Right.
I won't do that anymore. Before it wasn't like that. A year ago, if you saw my schedule, it's like all over the place meeting. Like now I have these things, and if somebody asks, I'm like, "What's my Tuesday looks like?" I don't have time, so it will be Thursday. What my Thursday? I don't have time. It will be next Tuesday. There's nowhere in my mind that goes, I should fit them on Friday. Even if my mind says it, I will stop and say that's not in alignment. We're
Mhm.
not doing that. So this is a constant conversation, right? So those words have helped me a lot. And then the balance, people say there's no balance. You can never be in balance.
Mhm.
But I think the balance is this one that I just talked about. The balance is in your mind. You talk to yourself. And my methodology is called talk to your brain. So I'm always constantly talking to my brain to find an equilibrium state, a state of, flow, right?
Mhm.
That's important for entrepreneurs. So if you're listening, you should find a word this year and say, I'm going to work on this. And that becomes like your everyday thing. And then you focus and you focus and focus. So now I'm in alignment. Now I have a boundary. Now I'm also in balance and flow
I
because
love
of
that.
those
My word
words.
this year is intention. Just
Nice.
being
Love that.
intentional with what I'm doing. So if I'm doing something, I'm fully present because I have a tendency to do a bunch of different things and I get excited by new stuff. So I'm just intentional with what I'm doing. And I put myself into a schedule as well, because if I don't, I'll look at my schedule and I'll have 18 podcasts and 22 sales calls. And when am I going to work out? Like that whole crazy gambit. So no, I love that a lot. Um, Before I let you go, are there any other final words, thoughts that maybe we didn't talk about on any topic that you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah. Like even if you're a parent or an entrepreneur, like I'm a big believer in how much we can control our brain. We think of it as it is controlling us because our education system didn't provide us those education, right? You know, the one thing that we use every day is our brain and the mechanical part of the brain. We don't really know how it works, and we don't really have a control over it, and we just let it work on its own. But for me, I took control of my brain. So I don't let it hijack. I don't let anyone do anything to me. I have learned to say that I can only do things to me. And this is another thing I always say to myself, no one can do anything to me. Before I used to be like, somebody looks mad, I'm like, oh, they must be mad at me. I don't know what I did. I didn't do anything. They're not doing anything to me. It's they're going through something, like that separation,
Hmm.
that you know that you are only controlled by yourself is so important. And therefore, no one can affect your success. No one can do anything to you unless you allow yourself, that person, to come into your head and do something, which doesn't happen unless you allow it. So my advice is always ask yourself, what am I allowing into my mind? Is it toxic? Then don't. It's not going to be helpful for you, right? And what are you thinking? The next thing is, what are you thinking? Are they always negative things? And then you expect positive things to happen or positive results? It's not going to happen either. So work with your mind. So I call that mind work. Everybody says it's hard work, it's smart work. I said none of that will work unless you know how to work your mind.
I love that. That is awesome. Thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank you
you.
for being on the show,
Thank you.
and for all you listening. I'm not going to try and top that. Work your mind, do what you need to do, and become the person that you want to wake up to a life you love living. Thank you for being here today, and we'll talk soon.